Hey friend, welcome to Tidy the Clutter podcast. I'm Mariah and I'm so glad you're here. This is your space for discovering real-life ways to simplify both your home and digital world. Life moves fast, and between work, family, and everything else on your plate, finding time to get organized can really feel overwhelming. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be. Each episode, we'll be exploring practical strategies and simple solutions that make organizing feel doable, even on your busiest days. Whether you're looking to create routines that stick, streamline your digital life, or bring more calm to your living spaces, you'll find actionable tips you can start using right away. So get comfy, grab your favorite drink, and let's dive in.
Are your digital family photos drowning in a sea of disorganization? Do you have thousands of pictures scattered across your phone, your computer, or various cloud accounts? Well, today, you'll be learning how to clear that clutter, keep your memory safe, and still reclaim your time with these stress-free organizing tips. Let's dive in. But before we do, my friend, how are you doing with last week's challenge? If you remember, in last week's episode, we talked about creating systems for keeping your kitchen counters clear. I'd love to hear how it's going for you. So if you haven't had a chance, this is just a quick reminder, test out those strategies and share your experience with me by tagging me on Instagram at Tidy the Clutter, because I can't wait to see your progress. But let's dive into today's episode. I promised we'd be diving into something completely different, but equally overwhelming for busy moms, and that is digital clutter. You know, all those family photos that I hate using the word clogging up your phone, but they kind of are clogging up your phone. Those countless memories you keep meaning to sort through. Today, we're going to be talking about how to tackle the invisible clutter that's taking up space in your devices and your mind. I'm going to be sharing the simple systems I use to declutter and organize our family's photos and create beautiful keepsakes that you'll keep actually enjoying instead of feeling super guilty about. If you've ever felt overwhelmed looking at thousands of unsorted photos, either on your phone or on your computer, or you've completely panicked when you couldn't find that special memory, but you knew you captured one, I've got something that will change everything for you. I've created a free guide that really shares the exact same system I use to keep our family photos organized with minimal time and effort. This system has been such a game changer for me, and now I spend less time sorting through digital clutter when it comes to family photos or photos in general, and more time actually enjoying our precious memories. I'll share more about how this approach has transformed my photo management throughout today's episode, but make sure to grab your free copy at tidytheclutter.com/024. Now, let's be honest. As moms, we're basically the family historians. We are constantly capturing those precious moments, first steps, birthday parties, everyday silliness. But then what happens? Those photos just pile up digitally. Your phone storage is constantly full, and finding that specific picture you need just becomes this really frustrating treasure hunt. For me, it wasn't one big breaking point that made me realize I needed a better system. It was actually looking through old pictures at my parents' house and thinking about how I really wanted to be able to find photos of my own little family more easily. I also wanted to make sure that years down the road, my kids would be able to find and view these memories without the, digital equivalent of digging through dusty boxes from storage. So I remember sitting on my parents' living room floor with these big photo albums from the 90s. My mom had meticulously labeled each one with the year on the spine, with sticky notes, mind you. And inside, photos were roughly chronologically put together, but finding a specific memory still meant flipping through dozens of pages. And if it wasn't in that book, try letter C of the same year and look through those pages. I thought, I have 10 times more photos than my parents ever did, all digital and kind of scattered everywhere. How will my kids ever find anything if I don't get organized now? But I do have a story that might sound even more familiar to some of you. Years ago, I was getting a new phone and I could not, for the life of me, sign into my account. I could not remember the password, and then it said, your email's not right. And I was like, what is it talking about? I've had the same email for years. I could not figure out how to get into this account. Somewhere along the lines, my email had changed, and I really could not remember, one, either the old email, or two, the password. And resetting it wasn't working because I didn't remember the email. So this meant anything that I didn't sync to my Dropbox wouldn't transfer to my new phone. That horrible feeling of panic in my stomach was so real. You know that moment when you think, did I just lose all those first birthday moments? Or that video of the first steps, those precious everyday moments that I'll never be able to recreate, did I just lose those? Digital photos seem so convenient until you realize just how fragile they can be without having a good system in place. Needless to say, we switched the phones, and I just remember thinking, please let my baby's photos be in there. I was so stressed that the automatic syncing feature had missed something inside Dropbox. And thankfully, Dropbox had actually synced that morning. Count your many blessings, I will say. So the only pictures I would have lost were really ones that I'd taken between the morning that it synced and the time that I was getting a new phone, which I don't think anything gigantic had happened. So we were fine. But that experience was scary enough that I decided to invest in LastPass. And honestly, I haven't looked back. I've used it every single year since. Whether I'm using Google or Dropbox, whichever one holds my pictures, which right now is Google, I'm not worried about being locked out or losing precious memories anymore because LastPass has got my back. Now, if you can remember back in episode, I believe it was 19, we talked about creating memory boxes for physical keepsakes. We're applying the same principles today for organizing family photos. I have tried different approaches at first, like organizing by kid or by event type, but I found that just doesn't work for me, and I need it to be more simple. Because if I had more options, my brain would be like, well, this was in Disneyland, but it's just for the youngest kid. So which folder should it go in? There was that odd, I don't want to say imbalance, but questionable questions, I guess, that my brain I needed something more simple. Whatever solution you choose, make sure you have a reliable way to access it. That password manager I mentioned before honestly has been my lifesaver. I will link it in the show notes in case you want to check it out. Now, step 2 would be create a simple folder structure. Now, I know there are people who organize their photos by the exact date, the event location, and who was there. And if that works for you, great. That's awesome. More power to you, my friend. I just needed something way more simple for me. But for a lot of busy moms, that level of detail, it's just not sustainable. We need something more simple. Here's what works for me. I organize by year and then by event within that year. For example, if we go to Disneyland, I have a folder inside my Google Drive labeled 2025_Disneyland. And that folder is inside my 2025 photos folder. Simple but effective. I've included examples of my exact folder structure in the free guide that I've mentioned before, so you can see exactly how I organize everything and adapt it to your own needs. When I helped my mom set up her system, she felt that Google Drive was a bit too advanced. Those were not her exact words, but very similar to that. So I set her up with Dropbox, and she uses it almost every day. Whenever she's looking for a photo, she's looking inside her Dropbox. Now, her setup is a little bit different from mine, though, which is great. Instead of organizing by dates, she separates by families, which makes a whole lot of sense. As a grandma, she's got 5 kids, 11 grandkids, and 1 great-grandchild. So it makes sense to her to organize by families, because when she is talking about a certain family and she wants to show the new grandbaby or the new great-grandbaby, she knows exactly which folder to go into in order to show people the picture she's looking for. The lesson here is your system should make sense to you. So make sure the system makes sense to you. Now, are you feeling overwhelmed by the growing digital clutter of family photos? Here is a few simple steps of how you can restore order and help you cherish your precious memories without so much stress. This is where really the real work happens, but I promise it's worth it. I have a monthly, I'm going to call it a task because I have a task management system, and so it's inside that. So I have a monthly task to review my photos and videos. It takes me about 20 to 30 minutes each month, so it's really not that long. This clears out duplicates and any random kid pictures that are, like 100 images of the same sock. Thank you to my little one. I noticed that a couple months ago. I clear these out. And then when I'm syncing my photos, it's super easy to make sure they're all in the right buckets. In the free guide that I've created for you, which you will be able to find at the show notes at tidytheclutter.com/024, I've included my monthly photo cleanup checklist that breaks this process down into simple steps. So you can really pretty much follow it while you're watching your favorite show or listening to your favorite music. And if you haven't noticed yet, I'm a bit of an awkward and goofy person. It's just who I am, so it's fine. So my approach when it comes to keeping photos is that I like to have I'm going to call it a sweet picture. Maybe people would call it a normal picture, but I like to have a sweet picture. And then I like to have a goofball picture. Anytime we're taking pictures, we have like a beautiful smiling picture, but I guarantee right after that, there's, okay, let's do a funny face, or half of us have our tongues out and our eyes closed, like something funky is happening. So I like to keep both of them because that's just how my family is. But I definitely don't need the same photo 50 times. I click the button once and somehow I've got 50. I don't need 50 photos of the exact same thing on my phone or in my Google Drive. So I've created a simple keep or delete decision helper inside the free guide that you can grab at the show notes. And this should help you quickly decide which photos to save and which ones to go using, I want to say this exact approach, but you do not need to use my exact approach, especially if you don't want goofy, silly pictures, or if you don't want the sweet pictures. Use the approach, but adapt it to you and your family. Now, the biggest challenge, time. This all takes time. I'm not going to lie about it. It takes time, my friend. And I know as busy moms, Mariah, I don't freaking have time. I don't have time for that. I feel like it's safe to promise that once you start working on it, you put in the work, it is so worth it. When I first started, I took it in small chunks because, I had years of unorganized pictures. And I did maybe 1 or 2 months at a time, depending on how many pictures there were or how much time I really wanted to kind of focus on it. And once I had everything cleared and everything kind of inside its own system, building this habit is the next biggest part. Once you fall off the wagon, it really can be more of a hassle to kind of jump back in because you just have more photos to go through. But it's not impossible. Think back about, okay, you just organized 5 6, 7, however many years, and you fell off the wagon for 1 or 2 months, you'll probably look at it and be like, oh, that's fine. That's a breeze compared to 5, 6 years, however many years you were working on beforehand. So don't overstress yourself if you get off the wagon, because I feel like this habit is one of those more simple and easy habits to kind of jump back into and be like, oh, okay, I'm a month behind, but that's fine. I've got it. I can just knock that out right now. So step number 4 is develop sustainable habits. So the key to maintaining your organized photos is exactly what we were just talking about, developing the new habit. So schedule that monthly photo cleanup session. Schedule it for 20 to 30 minutes. That's all it takes for me. If you have more kids than I do, or you do much more, it can totally depend. Maybe it takes you 30 minutes to an hour, and that's fine too. Just set the time for what's applicable for you and be more intentional about what you photograph. Do you really need 20 almost identical shots? Most likely not. Now, double check that you're adding photos into the correct folders. It gets a bit messy if you add photos from 2015 into your 2020 folder. Just saying. Not like I have a story there, but that's fine. So let me share a real life example of how these habits play out in my busy mom life. Last month, we attended my daughter's volleyball games every Saturday, which was awesome. I loved it. But I used to feel like this constant pressure of, oh, I need to pull out my phone and take a billion pictures so I can capture every moment. But then I also felt like I was missing her actually playing. Now, I'm much more intentional. I took just a few quality photos, one of her serving, one of her teammates, and a couple of action shots during important plays. And that's it. That evening, after the kids were in bed, I took a few minutes during my, I'm going to call it wind down time or me time, to quickly scan through the photos, delete any that were blurry, and kind of star my favorites if I found any favorites in there. Then I created a 2025_spring volleyball folder inside my 2025 folder and moved those star photos there. The whole process took maybe 5 minutes total, but now those memories are already organized. I don't have to worry about them. I was actually present for the game instead of viewing it through my phone screen, and I still captured the meaningful moments that I wanted to have. And to top it all off, they are properly stored for when we want to look back at them. Something else that has also helped me enormously is using my phone's built-in tools. Most people don't realize this, but both iPhone and Android have powerful photo features beyond just the camera. On iPhone, you can use the favorites feature by tapping the little heart icon on the best photos. And on Android, you can use the star system. These little markers make it so much easier to find your best shots for later. And I've already learned that the hard way. If you have multiple cloud services syncing to your phone, make sure you know which one is your, let's call it your home base. I had a period where some photos were going to Google Photos and others were going to Dropbox, when I was kind of in that awkward in-between of, oh, I don't know which one I like better, that type of thing. So I was testing them both, but not certain what I should do. Honestly, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare to like consolidate. And to this day, there are sometimes some that I still find. I'm like, why are there 2 pictures of me in that exact same dress on the same day? Identical. Oh, probably because one was in Dropbox when I moved everything over. Anyway, totally fine. And you can fix it later. But if you can have one home base, it will make it easier. So you're not double saving your photos. Finally, the last step I will mention is create those meaningful keepsakes. So the whole point of taking and organizing photos is to actually enjoy them. I've created family albums based on the photos in my Google Drive using Shutterfly. I like Shutterfly, so I utilize Shutterfly. And they turned out super cute. And I am no means a creative person. I just don't have that awesome skill to a great extent for busting out awesome photo albums. So Shutterflies was just super nice because I could pick a template and then plug in my photos. Now I have them lined up in our front room and my girls take them down every so often just to look through them. My free guide includes a whole section of annual photo projects. So different ideas that you can turn your digital memories into physical keepsakes so that your family can actually enjoy them. Let me just tell you that our family, I'm going to call them yearbooks or albums, our family yearbooks, because they've become such a special tradition for us, I didn't actually start doing this until my oldest was 4 or 5 years old. So if you haven't started yet, my friend, it is not too late. You are definitely not too late. I try to start really creating our annual book in December, though, if I've got to be completely honest, life sometimes just knocks me down. So life gets too busy and I just don't finish it until January or February, which is fine. I set it aside a few evenings after the kids are in bed and pour myself a hot cup of cocoa and put on some music and work on creating our family book, because my photos are already organized by year and event. So it literally takes less time than it would have if I was hunting for the photos, which makes it super nice. And I keep our yearbooks super simple, chronological by month with 4 to, 8 photos, sometimes more per page. And every once in a while, I'll add little captions, like, oh, the youngest walked for the first time, or, hey, the first time in Disneyland, something like that, very simple. Just basically a remembrance for when I'm super old and most likely don't remember stuff. The first time I showed one of these complete books to my oldest, her reaction was so priceless. She pointed to each photo and was like, I remember that. And of course, there were some toys, right? One of her favorite toys. And she's like, where is that? I love that toy. It was just really fun to relive those memories and see her reactions. Now, the girls are older and we have several years of books, which is great. Sometimes I'll come into the living room and find both of them just sitting together, giggling over photos from when they were smaller. My oldest loves to see pictures of herself as a baby, and my youngest loves to just remind the oldest of how silly she was when she was a baby, because she believes she can remember that. So these physical books just bring our memories to life in a way that digital photos stored on a hard drive really never can, unless we're all sitting down and looking at mom's phone and scrolling through them. Another big benefit of having organized photos, when my husband Nate and I were getting married, I found it incredibly helpful to easily locate specific photos from our dating days or way the heck back in high school to include in our wedding video, instead of scrolling endlessly like, okay, I know we've got more. Where are they? I knew exactly where they were when I needed them. Not everybody likes to create yearbooks or yearly albums, and that's totally fine. There are so many other ways you can enjoy your photos. In our home, I actually kind of use a mix of methods. While I love our yearbooks, I also like to change out certain frames around the house seasonally with new photos. And I have to tell you about my digital frame that I absolutely love. My youngest finds it awesome to just sit there and flip through the digital frame to see all the photos. So I think it's a win. It's really become one of my favorite ways to enjoy our family photos besides the physical album. It rotates through selected photos that I've uploaded throughout the day. And it's such a joy just to kind of glance over and be like, oh, they were so tiny. Or, oh my gosh, I remember when we were swimming in that pool or sledding or whatever it is. I will add a link to the exact frame that I use in the show notes in case you're interested. So it will be at tidytheclutter.com/024. Now, I do have some friends that create themed mini books just for vacations or holidays, and other friends print and display only their favorite shots. The important thing is finding a method that works for you and your family's lifestyle. because the goal is not to create more work for yourself. It's to actually enjoy those precious memories that you've captured. Now, before we wrap up, I just want to address some common questions about organizing family photos. These questions that have just kind of naturally come up when you're tackling this type of project. The first is something I think many of us face. What about all the photos that other people take of my kids? And family members just seem to send them, and they are scattered everywhere in text messages. This is such a relatable challenge. So when family members send me photos via text or email, I treat them just like any other photos in my system. I save them to my Google Drive and I organize them into the same year and event folders as my own photos. So this way, when I'm looking for all the pictures from my daughter's volleyball game, I have both the ones I took and the ones that her grandparents sent me in the same place. And some other approaches that might work too are creating a shared Google Photos album where family members can add pictures directly using a family sharing app like Family Album, or setting up automatic forwarding for photo emails. But honestly, I find that the simplest solution is often the best. So just save those precious photos from the text or emails into your existing organization system right away before they get buried and potentially forgotten about. Another common challenge that I hear about is, how do you handle the videos? They take up so much space, but they're some of the best and most precious memories. You're right. Videos are definitely storage hogs. I treat videos very similar to photos in terms of organization, using the same folder structure. However, I'm much more selective about which ones I keep. I usually trim videos to just the key moments before saving them permanently. For example, instead of keeping a 3-minute video where only 30 seconds has that super cute moment, I'll edit it down. Many phones now just have basic video editing tools built right into them. And for those precious videos, I make sure they're just backed up at least in 2 places. So I keep it on my phone and I also put it in Google Drive. And finally, one of the last questions that I hear is, I have years of digital photos completely unorganized. Where do I even start without feeling overwhelmed? If you are in this situation, I recommend starting with the present and moving backwards. Get your current system in place for new photos first, then tackle 1 year at a time, beginning with the most recent. So set small, achievable goals before organizing 1 month of photos per week. And then use downtime, like waiting at soccer practice or while watching TV, to sort through small batches. You don't have to do it all at once. Even organizing just your favorite photos from years before would be a great start. So there you have it, my friends, your roadmap to taming the digital photo chaos. The goal isn't a perfect system. It's having your precious memories organized enough that you can find and enjoy them for years to come. So let's recap our 5 main steps. First, choose a reliable storage solution and make sure you can always access it. Second, create a simple folder structure that works for your life. Third, set aside monthly time to declutter and organize. Fourth, develop sustainable habits for maintaining your system. And lastly, number 5, create meaningful keepsakes to actually enjoy those photos. Now, I would love to hear how you implement this. So share your digital photo organizing win and tag me on Instagram at Tidy the Clutter. I'm always up to celebrate with you. And don't forget to download the free photo organizing guide at tidytheclutter.com/024. It includes everything we talked about today, examples of my folder structure setup, the monthly cleanup checklist, the keep or delete decision guide, project ideas, and even some troubleshooting tips. It's everything you need to finally get your photos organized in one convenient resource. So be sure to check it out inside the show notes at tidytheclutter.com/024, where I've included separate links to my favorite digital frame and the Shutterfly service that I mentioned that I use for my family yearbooks, aka those family albums. And next week, I don't think you'll want to miss it. We're going to be diving into practical strategies for organizing and preserving your child's schoolwork and artwork without all the necessarily overwhelming feeling of, crap, do I really throw this away? That's so sad. We'll be exploring how to set up a simple, effective filing system for school papers with labeled folders for each school year. It makes my organization heart super happy, if you can't tell. But we'll also be discussing creative ways to display your child's artwork while keeping your home clutter-free. So tune in for actionable tips that will help you manage the chaos and keep those precious pieces organized for years to come. Until then, remember progress over perfection, and you've got this.
That's all for today's episode. Remember, creating a tidy home isn't about perfection. It's about taking one small step at a time. Each tiny win adds up. And before you know it, you are making real progress in your space and your life. I hope you're leaving today feeling excited about your next small step forward. Did this episode hit home for you? Share it with that friend who's been feeling overwhelmed lately. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in the struggle is exactly what we need to hear. And if you are loving these tips, following the podcast and leaving a quick review really helps other moms discover these simple solutions too. You can find all the resources mentioned in today's episode, plus explore our previous episodes at tidytheclutter.com/podcast. And hey, if you haven't grabbed your free digital declutter checklist yet, this is your friendly reminder, my friend. Digital clutter is sneaking into our lives more and more each day, but you can take control before digital clutter takes control of you. Head over to tidytheclutter.com/digital15 to get started. Until next time, keep things simple, stay focused, and enjoy those small wins along the way. Take care and talk soon.